The alarm began as a soft pulse in the darkness of the monitoring station. Within seconds, it grew louder, more urgent. Technician Vrel's 3 eyes snapped open, his blue skin turning pale as he stared at the screen before him. Something was coming through the outer terminus. The outer terminus was the edge of known space, the boundary where concordate territory met the vast emptiness beyond. In 800 cycles of peace, nothing unexpected had ever come through that border. Ships announced themselves. Traders followed routes. Everyone knew the rules. This ship did not follow the rules. Vrel's 6 fingers moved quickly across the control panel. His heart beat faster as more data filled his screen. The vessel was big, very big. But that was not what made his breathing quicken. It was the energy readings. By the ancestors, he whispered. The radiation levels coming from that ship would kill any known species within hours. The fusion reactions inside it were running at temperatures that should melt any hull ever designed. The power output was enormous, wasteful, almost violent in its intensity. Vrel reached for the emergency communication device. His hand shook slightly. "This is Monitoring Station 749 to Concordate Central Command," he said, keeping his voice steady through training alone. "We have an unknown contact. It is not responding to standard hails. Energy signature is inconsistent with known technology. Requesting immediate guidance, the response came quickly, too quickly. That meant Central Command was taking this seriously. Station 749, maintain observation. Do not approach. A diplomatic fleet is being assembled. Continue all attempts at communication." Vrel acknowledged the order and turned back to his screens. He watched the unknown vessel move deeper into concordate space. It did not slow down. It did not answer his hails. It just kept coming, like a predator that had caught a scent. 3 days later, Ambassador Krell stood in the Grand Council chamber and felt something he had not experienced in his 200 years of life. He felt fear. The council chamber was beautiful, built from crystal that caught and reflected light in ways that inspired peace and contemplation. Representatives from 47 species sat in a great circle, their various forms creating a living artwork of diversity. The Varesh, like Krell, were tall and slender with smooth gray skin. The Torvan were covered in soft fur and had large, gentle eyes. The Krathic were thick-bodied and powerful, but even they followed the ways of peace that had defined the Concordate for centuries, now that peace faced something unknown. "The vessel continues to move through our space," High Counselor Marish said. Her telepathic voice touched every mind in the chamber gently, as was proper. "It has not responded to any communication attempts. We must decide how to proceed." "Send warships," growled Commander Thrak of the Krathic. His species valued strength, though even they had learned to make war the Concordate way, with honor, with rules, with minimal death. "This intruder shows disrespect." "We do not know if it is an intruder," Krell said calmly. "Perhaps they cannot understand our communications. Perhaps their technology is different. We must approach with open minds and peaceful intentions." Other council members murmured agreement. The Concordate had been built on principles of understanding and diplomacy. Every conflict in living memory had been resolved through talking, through finding common ground. War was something from ancient history, from the dark times before civilization. "I propose we send a diplomatic fleet," Krell continued. 12 vessels representing multiple species. We will approach peacefully, show them we mean no harm, and establish communication. There is no problem that cannot be solved through patience and wisdom. The council voted. The measure passed easily. Violence was always the last option, never the first. Krell left the chamber feeling confident. In his long career, he had negotiated peace between feuding colonies, settled trade disputes that seemed impossible, and brought understanding to a dozen different conflicts. This would be no different. Every species, when approached correctly, could be reasoned with. He had no idea how wrong he was. The diplomatic fleet assembled quickly. 12 ships, each one elegant and efficient. They were not warships, though they carried defensive weapons as a formality. Their hulls were decorated with the symbols of peace. Their crews were trained diplomats, linguists, and cultural experts. Krell stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, the Harmonious Dawn. Around him, crew members worked quietly at their stations. The Varesh were natural leaders for such missions. Their telepathic abilities allowed them to sense emotions, to understand the feelings behind words, It made them excellent at finding peaceful solutions. "We are approaching the unknown vessel, Ambassador," the ship's captain reported. "It is maintaining its current course. No change in behavior. Keep trying all communication frequencies," Krell ordered. "Broad spectrum. Send mathematical sequences, the standard first contact protocols, everything we have." For hours they tried. They sent prime numbers. They sent images showing peaceful intent. They broadcast in every known language and several theoretical ones. The unknown ship remained silent. Then they got close enough for detailed scans. "Ambassador," the science officer said, her voice uncertain, "I am reading the vessel's structure now. This is strange." Krell moved to her station. The holographic display showed the unknown ship in detail for the first time. It was huge, 3 kilometers from end to end, shaped like a blade designed to cut through space itself. But what caught Krell's attention was the hull. It was scarred, patched, repaired again and again with different materials. Some sections looked new and fresh. Others were blackened and damaged. "This ship has been in combat," the science officer said quietly. "Extensive combat. Look at these impact marks. Weapons fire. And here this entire section was rebuilt. Ambassador, this vessel has been fighting for a long time." Krell felt something cold settle in his chest. The Concordat had not seen real combat in centuries. Their wars were ceremonial things, fought with rules and honor, ended quickly with few deaths. This ship looked like it had been through hell itself. "What species builds a ship like this?" the captain asked. "One that expects to fight," Krell answered softly. Before anyone could respond, every alarm on the bridge began screaming at once. "They are locking weapons on us!" the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple targeting systems. All of our ships are being painted by their scanners." The view screen suddenly blazed with light. The unknown ship had come alive. Energy surged through its hull. Weapons ports opened like hungry mouths. Targeting beams swept across the diplomatic fleet with mechanical precision. "Raise shields. Evasive maneuvers," the captain ordered. "Wait," Krell commanded. "We are here in peace. They are just being cautious. Do not make any aggressive moves. Show them we mean no harm." It was the longest minute of Krell's life. The diplomatic fleet hung in space, shields down, weapons cold, while the massive warship held them in its sights. One wrong move from either side could turn this into a tragedy. Then finally a voice crackled over the communication system. "Unknown vessels, you have entered weapons range of the UNSC Indomitable. State your intentions immediately or you will be considered hostile." The voice was harsh, mechanical, speaking a language cobbled together from the Concordat's own broadcasts. But there was something underneath it. Something that made Krell's telepathic senses recoil. This species was dangerous. "This is Ambassador Krell of the Concordat Council," he said, forcing his voice to remain calm. "We come in peace. We wish to establish communication and understanding." "We mean you no harm?" Silence. Long tense silence. Then, "Stand by." The weapons remained locked on them. The diplomatic fleet waited, and Ambassador Krell wondered for the first time in his long life if perhaps not every problem could be solved with words. After what felt like an eternity, the view screen activated. A face appeared and the entire bridge of the Harmonious Dawn went still. She was a human, though none of them knew that word yet. Her skin was darker than the Varesh, marked by what looked like old scars. Her hair was cut short, practical rather than decorative. But it was her eyes that struck them. They faced forward like a predator's eyes, like something that hunted. When she spoke, her lips pulled back slightly, revealing white teeth. The Torvin communications officer made a small sound of distress. In his species, showing teeth was a sign of aggression, a prelude to violence. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Nations Space Corps vessel Indomitable," the human said. Her voice was tired, carrying a weight that Krell could sense even without trying. "Forgive our caution. We have learned to be careful with unknown contacts." "Captain Vasquez," Krell said, bowing his head in the gesture of respect that was universal among Concordat species. "I am Ambassador Krell. We are representatives of the Concordat Council, an alliance of 47 species dedicated to peace and cooperation. We welcome you to our space." Something flickered across Vasquez's face, an emotion Krell could not quite identify. "Peace," she repeated as if the word was foreign to her. "That must be nice. Perhaps we could meet face to face," Krell suggested. "We have much to discuss. There are proper protocols for first contact situations. We can help you understand our civilization, introduce you to the Council, establish trade agreements." "Ambassador," Vasquez interrupted. Her eyes were hard. "Before we go any further, there is something you need to know. Something you need to understand about where we come from and why we are here." Krell felt a chill run through him. Her tone suggested this would not be pleasant news. 150 years ago, my people sent colony ships to a distant world," Vasquez began. "We were looking for a new home, a new start. We found one. A beautiful planet. We called it New Terra." She paused, and Krell saw something in her eyes. Pain. Old and deep. 3 years after we arrived, they came. We don't know what they call themselves. We call them the Devourers. They are a species that sees all other life as resources to be consumed. They attacked without warning, without mercy. They killed billions. The bridge of the Harmonious Dawn was completely silent now. Even the normal sounds of the ship seemed to fade away. For 150 years, Ambassador, humanity has been fighting for its survival, Vasquez continued. Her voice was steady, but Krell could sense the storm of emotions beneath it. We have fought on planets and in space. We have lost entire colonies. We have watched our worlds burn. The Indomitable is one of the last warships from our fleet. We came here to find help, or at minimum to warn others that the Devourers exist. Krell struggled to process what he was hearing. 150 years of continuous war? It was impossible. No species could sustain such a conflict. Wars in the Concordat lasted weeks at most, ended with negotiated settlements and minimal casualties. Captain Vasquez, he said carefully, the Concordat has maintained peace for 800 cycles. We have methods for resolving conflicts. Perhaps we could help mediate between your people and these Devourers. Surely there is some misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding. Vasquez's voice was sharp now, cutting. They want to eat us, Ambassador. They want to strip our worlds bare and use us as fuel for their expansion. You don't negotiate with something like that. You fight it, or you die. The bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. This was beyond their experience, beyond their understanding. The concept of total war, of extinction-level threats, belonged to ancient history. We will bring this before the Council, Krell said finally. They will want to hear your story. We will consider how best to help. Vasquez laughed. It was not a happy sound. You think your council will help? Let me tell you what I see when I look at your ships, Ambassador. I see vessels designed for show, not war. I see shields that are adequate for defense but not for sustained combat. I see weapons that are powerful enough to make a point, but not to kill efficiently. You have forgotten how to fight. You have forgotten how to survive. We have evolved beyond such things, Krell said, though the words felt weak even as he spoke them. Then pray the Devourers never find you, Vasquez replied. Because if they do, your evolution will be your extinction. The transmission ended. The human ship began to power down its weapons, though its shields remained at full strength. The diplomatic fleet was left to process what they had just learned. Ambassador Krell stood in the center of the bridge and felt the foundation of everything he believed begin to crack. For 800 cycles, the Concordat had built a civilization on the principle that violence was never necessary, that all conflicts could be resolved through wisdom and patience. But as he stared at the scarred hull of the human warship, at the marks of countless battles fought for survival itself, he wondered if perhaps the galaxy was not as civilized as they had believed. And he wondered what would happen when the Concordat Council met a species that had been forged in the fires of total war. The diplomatic fleet turned and began the journey back to Concordat space. Behind them, the Indomitable maintained its position, a silent guardian watching the darkness between the stars. The galaxy was about to change. None of them knew it yet, but the age of peace through consensus was ending. The age of peace through strength was about to begin. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every representative sat in absolute silence as they watched the transmission from the human captain. When it ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. High Counselor Maresh was the first to break the silence. Her telepathic voice was careful, controlled. This is troubling news. If what Captain Vasquez says is true, then there is a hostile species in the galaxy that we know nothing about. If it is true, Commander Thrak said. The Krathic warrior crossed his thick arms. These humans appear suddenly, tell us stories of endless war and expect us to believe them? Perhaps this is a trick. Perhaps they are the aggressors. Ambassador Krell stood. He had spent 3 days preparing his report, reviewing every scan, every piece of data his fleet had collected. I do not believe they are lying, he said. My telepathic sense detected no deception from Captain Vasquez. Only pain. Old deep pain. And their ship? You have all seen the scans. That vessel has been through combat that none of our species have experienced in living memory. One ship proves nothing, argued Counselor Vresh of the Torvan. Her fur rippled with agitation. We have maintained peace for 800 cycles precisely because we do not rush to judgment. We do not act based on fear and stories. Then what do you propose? Krell asked. We observe, Marish said. We learn more. We verify their claims before we commit to any course of action. Send another delegation. Request more information. Offer humanitarian aid if needed. But we must be cautious, the council voted. The decision was made. They would engage with the humans carefully, slowly, following all proper protocols. Krell felt a strange unease as he left the chamber. In his centuries of diplomatic work, he had learned to trust his instincts. And his instincts told him that the Concordat was making a mistake. They were treating this like any other first contact situation, but the humans were not like any other species they had encountered. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Krell returned to the human ship with a larger delegation. This time he brought experts, xenobiologists, historians, military analysts. If the humans were willing to share their story, the Concordat would listen properly. They were transported aboard the Indomitable via shuttle. As they passed through the warship's docking bay, Krell observed everything carefully. The bay was functional, efficient, with no decoration or beauty. Everything served a purpose. Crews moved with quick precision, their uniforms worn and practical. Nobody wasted time. It was so different from Concordat vessels where every space was designed to inspire peace and reflection. Captain Vasquez met them in a briefing room. She looked tired, Krell thought, like someone who had not slept properly in years. Around her stood her senior officers, a mixture of humans with different skin colors and features. Some had visible scars. One was missing an arm, replaced with a mechanical prosthetic. Ambassador Krell, Vasquez said, nodding. Welcome aboard. I understand your council wants to know more about our situation. We do, Krell replied. The council is finding your story difficult to believe. No offense intended. It is simply beyond our experience. None taken, Vasquez said. She gestured to the chairs around the table. Please sit. We have prepared a presentation. But I warn you, it will not be pleasant. The Concordat delegation sat. The lights dimmed. A holographic display activated in the center of the table. This is New Terra, Vasquez began. The display showed a beautiful world, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. 153 years ago, 50,000 humans arrived here. We built cities. We started farms. We thought we had found paradise. The image changed. Now the planet was burning. Dark shapes moved through the sky, organic vessels like massive insects. The devourers arrived without warning, Vasquez continued. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Krell realized she had told this story many times. They attacked every settlement simultaneously. Our defenses were minimal. We were colonists, not soldiers. They killed 30,000 people in the first week. The holographic display showed battles. The Concordat delegation watched in growing horror as they saw the devourers in action. The creatures were nightmarish, multi-limbed, covered in biological armor, moving with horrible purpose. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. We fought back with whatever we had, Vasquez said. Farming equipment, mining tools, our few security weapons. We lost 10 people for every devourer we killed, but we learned. We adapted. We survived. The images showed the evolution of human warfare. Crude fortifications becoming sophisticated bunkers, simple weapons being replaced by purpose-built military hardware, civilians becoming soldiers. Within 5 years we had built an actual military. Vasquez continued. We had no choice. The devourers kept coming. They would strip one area of resources and move to another. We learned their patterns. We learned how to hurt them. Krell watched one particular sequence, a group of humans defending a small settlement against overwhelming odds. They fought with desperation and savagery. When their ammunition ran out, they fought with blades. When the blades broke, they fought with their bare hands. The last 3 humans detonated explosives, taking dozens of devourers with them. That was the defense of Hope Valley, Vasquez said quietly. 1,200 humans held that position for 6 days against 10,000 devourers. 23 humans survived, but they bought enough time for 15,000 civilians to evacuate. The Torvin counselor made a soft sound of distress. Her species could barely comprehend such violence. This is one example of thousands, Vasquez continued. For 150 years, every human on New Terra has lived with war as a daily reality. We have lost dozens of settlements, millions of people, but we are still here. We are still fighting. The display changed again, showing the Indomitable and other warships. 20 years ago, we completed our first fleet of deep space-capable warships, Vasquez explained. We took the fight to them. We hunted their breeding grounds. We destroyed their resource ships. We made them pay for every inch of ground they took. A Varish scientist in Krell's delegation raised his hand. Captain, I must ask, how do you maintain morale? How do your people continue fighting for so long? In our history, wars that lasted more than a few months led to social collapse. Vasquez smiled, but it was a sad expression. We fight because we have no choice. We fight because we remember what we lost. We fight because if we stop, we die. It is that simple. But the psychological impact, the scientist pressed. The trauma. How do your people cope? We don't, Vasquez said bluntly. Not really. Every human on New Terra carries scars, mental, physical, or both. We have entire medical facilities dedicated to helping people process their experiences. But we cannot afford to let trauma stop us. We learn to function despite it. We learn to live with it. Krell felt his telepathic sense touch the minds around him. He had been trained to sense emotions, to read the feelings of others. What he felt from Captain Vasquez and her crew was overwhelming. Pain, loss, determination like iron. And underneath it all, a capacity for violence that was terrifying in its intensity. These were not people who made war occasionally. These were people shaped by war, forged by it, made into something new. Show them the combat footage, said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. A man stood there, older than Vasquez, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. He wore a commander's insignia. James, Vasquez said. I was trying to ease them into it. They need to see, Commander James Chen said. They need to understand what we face, what might be coming to their space. Vasquez hesitated, then nodded. Very well. But I warned you, Ambassador. This will be difficult to watch. The holographic display changed once more. This time it showed raw combat footage from helmet cameras. Krell watched as human soldiers fought the Devourers in close quarters. The violence was shocking. The Concordat delegation saw humans taking wounds that should have been fatal and continuing to fight. They saw tactics that prioritized killing the enemy over personal survival. They saw humans sacrifice themselves deliberately to create opportunities for their comrades. In one sequence, a human soldier was completely surrounded. Instead of surrendering or attempting to escape, she detonated a grenade at point-blank range, killing herself and 20 Devourers. The footage ended. Several members of the Concordat delegation were visibly shaken. One was quietly crying. That was Corporal Maria Santos, Vasquez said. She was 24 years old. She had a husband and a daughter waiting at home. But she saw an opportunity to eliminate a Devourer command cluster, and she took it. Her sacrifice saved the lives of hundreds of other soldiers. This is madness, whispered a Concordat military analyst. No sane person would fight this way. You are correct, Chen said. His voice was hard. In your terms, we are not sane. We cannot afford to be. Sanity means following rules. Sanity means valuing your own life. In a war of extinction, there are no rules. And sometimes a single life must be spent to save many. Krell found his voice. Captain Vasquez, Commander Chen. Your story is compelling, but my council will ask for proof. Is there any way to verify that these Devourers actually exist? That they are the threat you describe? Vasquez and Chen exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. We brought something with us, Vasquez said finally. We hoped we would not need to show it. But yes, we have proof. She touched a control panel. Bring it up. 10 minutes later, the Concordat delegation stood in a sealed observation room deep in the Indomitable's hull. Beyond a thick window of reinforced material was a containment cell. Inside the cell was a Devourer. It was smaller than the ones in the combat footage, perhaps only 2 meters tall. But it was no less horrifying. The creature was a nightmare made flesh, multiple limbs ending in blade-like appendages, a body covered in organic armor, and a head that was mostly mouth filled with rows of tearing teeth. It slammed against the window, making several of the Concordat delegation jump back in fear. "We captured this one during a raid on one of their supply ships," Chen explained. "It is young, not yet fully grown. An adult can be 3 times this size. Can it be communicated with?" asked the Varish scientist. "Can it think reason?" "It can think," Vasquez said. "They are not mindless animals. They plan, they strategize, they learn from their mistakes. That makes them more dangerous, not less." "Have you tried to negotiate with them?" Krell asked, though he already knew the answer. 13 times over the past century, Chen answered. Each time they responded by attacking the negotiation team. "We have captured their communications. We have attempted every form of contact we can imagine. They do not want peace, Ambassador. They want food. We are food." The creature hit the window again, its mouth opening to reveal a throat that pulsed with bioluminescent light. "We keep it sedated most of the time," Vasquez said. "Even in captivity, they are dangerous. This one killed 3 guards before we managed to secure it properly." Krell stared at the devourer. He tried to do what he had been trained to do. Find empathy, find common ground, find some way to connect. But all he felt was hunger. Endless, consuming hunger. This was a species that could not be reasoned with, could not be convinced, could only be fought. It was a concept that shattered everything the Concordat believed about the universe. The return journey to the council chamber was quiet. The delegation had much to discuss, much to process. But Krell could see it in their eyes. They believed now. The humans were not lying. The threat was real. When they presented their findings to the full council, the reaction was mixed. Some representatives were horrified. Others were skeptical, still clinging to the belief that somehow this could be resolved peacefully. A few, like Commander Thrak, argued that the humans themselves might be dangerous. "They fight like savages," Thrak said. "Did you see that footage? They have no honor. They use suicide attacks. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. These are not the tactics of a civilized species. They are the tactics of a species fighting for survival," Krell countered. "Can we truly judge them for doing whatever is necessary to protect their people?" "But should we help them?" asked another counselor. "If we involve ourselves in their war, we might draw this threat to our own space. Perhaps the wise course is to maintain our distance." High Counselor Marish raised her hand, calling for silence. "This council must make a decision. But we need more information. Ambassador Krell, you have spent the most time with the humans. What is your assessment? Are they trustworthy?" Krell thought carefully before answering. "High Counselor, the humans are not like us. They think differently. They approach problems differently. They have been shaped by violence in ways we cannot fully understand. But yes, I believe they are trustworthy. And I believe they are telling the truth about this threat." "And do you believe we should help them?" Marish asked. "I believe," Krell said slowly, "that we have no choice. If the devourers are real, if they are as dangerous as the humans claim, then eventually they will find us. Better to face them with the humans as allies than to face them alone." The council debated for hours, but Krell could see that minds were changing. The evidence was too strong, the threat too real. Finally, Marish called for a vote. "All those in favor of offering military assistance to the human colony worlds?" The vote was close, but it passed. "Then it is decided," Marish said. "We will help. But first we must see if these humans can teach us what we need to know. We must see if we can learn to fight as they do." Commander Thrak stood. "High Counselor, if I may suggest, let the humans prove themselves first. Let them demonstrate their combat capabilities. The Krathic are the finest warriors in the Concordat. If these humans are truly as skilled as they claim, let them show us in a controlled test." Marish considered this. "A demonstration?" "A simulation," Thrak said. "Our best fleet against their single ship. Non-lethal weapons, of course, but it would let us see what they are capable of." Krell felt uneasy about this, but he could see the political wisdom. The council needed to be convinced completely. They needed to see human warfare with their own eyes. "Very well," Marish agreed. "Ambassador Krell, please convey our offer to Captain Vasquez. We wish to see a demonstration of human combat tactics. If they impress us, we will commit fully to an alliance." Krell bowed and left the chamber. As he walked toward the docking bay, he wondered if the Concordat truly understood what they were asking for. The humans had spent 150 years learning how to kill efficiently. They had refined violence into an art form. They had built their entire civilization around the concept of survival through superior force. And now the Krathic, the proudest warriors in the Concordat, wanted to test themselves against that. Krell suspected the Krathic were about to learn a very hard lesson about the difference between playing at war and actually fighting one. He just hoped the lesson did not break them. The simulation arena floated in deep space far from any inhabited worlds. It was a massive sphere of energy fields and sensor equipment designed to track every movement, every shot, every tactical decision during combat exercises. The Concordat had used it for training purposes for 300 cycles. Never had it seen real combat. Today, it would come close. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and studied the holographic display showing her opposition. 6 Krathic heavy cruisers arranged in a perfect diamond formation. Each one was nearly a kilometer long, heavily armored, carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. Against them, 1 human warship. Damaged, patched, running on systems that were held together by determination and skill as much as by engineering. "They think this is a fair test," Commander Chen said quietly, standing beside her. 6 against 1, Vasquez smiled. It was not a kind expression. They have no idea what a fair fight actually is. Down in the CIC, Combat Information Center, her crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had done this hundreds of times before. Not simulations, real combat, real consequences. The stakes today might be lower, but their professionalism remained the same. "All stations report ready, Captain," her tactical officer said. Lieutenant Marcus Webb was 26 years old and had been fighting since he was 16. His face had the hard lines of someone who had seen too much death. Weapons at simulation settings. "All systems green." "Good," Vasquez said. She opened a channel to the Concordat observation ship that was monitoring the exercise. "Captain Vasquez to control. The Indomitable is ready to begin." Ambassador Krell's voice responded. "Captain, we are receiving your telemetry. Please remember, this is a non-lethal simulation. The goal is to demonstrate tactics, not to cause actual damage." "Understood, Ambassador," Vasquez replied. Then she switched to the fleet-wide channel, the one that would let her speak to the Krathic ships. "This is Captain Vasquez to Krathic Fleet Commander Thrak. Are you ready?" Thrak's voice came through full of confidence. "We are ready, human. Though I must say I am disappointed. I expected more ships. This will be over quickly." "Maybe," Vasquez said. "Or maybe you will learn something today. Good luck, Commander." She closed the channel and turned to Chen. "What do you think? How long?" Chen considered. "The Krathic are good. They train hard. Their formations are textbook perfect. Their firing solutions will be accurate. They follow all the standard doctrines for fleet combat." He paused. 4 minutes, I say 3, Vasquez replied. "Helm Tactical, you ready to show them how humans fight?" Across the bridge, her crew smiled. They were predators who had just spotted prey. "Ready, Captain," they responded as one. The simulation began. On the observation ship, Ambassador Krell watched his display with intense focus. Around him, representatives from a dozen species monitored the exercise with their own equipment. High Counselor Marish was present. Her telepathic sense stretched out to observe the emotional states of the combatants. "The Krathic are moving into attack position," the tactical officer reported. "Standard 6-ship assault formation. They are coordinating their approach to maximize overlapping fields of fire." "Very professional," Krell nodded. The Krathic were indeed impressive. Their ships moved with precision, maintaining exact distances from each other. Every weapon was locked onto the human vessel. Every shield was properly angled to provide mutual support. It was perfect by Concordat standards. "The human ship is not moving?" Maresh asked. Indeed, the Indomitable hung in space like a dead thing. Its engines were cold. Its weapons were not charging. Even its shields seemed to be minimal. "Perhaps they are malfunctioning," suggested one observer. "Or perhaps," Krell said slowly, "they are doing exactly what they want to do." The Krathic fleet closed to attack range. Thrak's voice came over the open channel, broadcasting to everyone watching. "Human vessel, you have not maneuvered or taken defensive positions. Are you surrendering already?" No response from Vasquez. "Very well," Thrak said. "All ships fire at will. Let us show them Krathic precision. The 6 cruisers fired simultaneously. Their weapons, set to simulation mode, launched brilliant streams of energy toward the Indomitable. The attack was coordinated perfectly. Every shot was calculated to hit a critical system. It was a textbook assault. The Indomitable vanished. For a moment, Krell thought the ship had been destroyed. But no, the sensors still showed it. The human warship had moved with impossible speed, dropping away from its position just before the shots arrived. They were playing dead. Maresh breathed. They wanted the Krathic to commit. The Indomitable reappeared on sensors now below and behind the Krathic formation. Before Thrak could issue orders, the human ship opened fire, but not at the fleet. At the space between them, what are they shooting at? Someone asked. Then Krell understood. They are not trying to hit the ships. They are breaking the formation. The Krathic cruisers following their training scattered to avoid the fire. It was the correct response according to standard doctrine. When under attack, spread out to make targeting difficult. But it left them isolated from each other. And the moment they were separated, the Indomitable struck. The human ship moved like nothing Krell had ever seen. It was not elegant. It was not graceful. It was violent and aggressive, like a predator going for the throat. It targeted the nearest Krathic cruiser and unleashed everything it had. Multiple hits on Krathic Vessel 3, the tactical officer reported. Shields collapsing. They are reading as mission killed. 1 down, 5 to go. The remaining Krathic ships tried to reform to re-establish their coordination. But the Indomitable would not let them. It moved constantly, never staying in one place, always positioning itself where only 1 or 2 enemies could target it at a time. They are using the destroyed ship as cover, Marish observed, making the Krathic afraid to fire for fear of hitting their own vessel. Indeed, the Indomitable had positioned itself so that the disabled cruiser was between it and 3 of the remaining 5 ships. The Krathic, following rules about not firing on friendly vessels, had to maneuver around. By the time they did, another ship was dead. This is not warfare, a Concordat observer said, shocked. This is butchery, Krell said nothing. He just watched, fascinated and horrified in equal measure. The Indomitable did not fight fairly. It did not give the enemy chances to regroup. It exploited every moment of confusion, every second of hesitation. When a Krathic ship tried to charge weapons, the humans hit it before it could fire. When a ship tried to maneuver, the humans anticipated the move and was waiting. It was like watching a master chess player competing against children. The Krathic were skilled, well-trained, and brave. But the humans were operating on a completely different level. 3 minutes and 40 seconds after the simulation began, the last Krathic cruiser registered as destroyed. Complete victory for the humans. 0 losses. The observation ship was silent. Nobody knew what to say. Finally, Thrak's voice came over the channel. He sounded different. Shaken. Human ship, this is Commander Thrak. We request a review of the engagement. We need to understand what happened. Of course, Commander, Vasquez replied. Her voice was professional, showing no pride or arrogance. We would be happy to discuss the battle. 2 hours later, both fleets gathered in the observation ship's conference room. The Krathic commander sat on one side of the table, the human officers on the other. The Concordat representatives occupied the middle, with Ambassador Krell moderating. Commander Thrak looked like someone who had been struck in the head. His thick features were set in an expression of confusion and something that might have been fear. I do not understand, he said. We did everything correctly. Our formation was perfect. Our firing solutions were accurate. Our coordination was flawless. How did you defeat us so easily? Captain Vasquez leaned forward. Commander, may I be blunt? Please, Thrak said. I need to understand. You did everything correctly, Vasquez agreed. By Concordat standards, your tactics were excellent for the kind of warfare you practice. Ritualistic, rule-based combat where both sides agree to certain limitations. But we do not fight that way. We cannot afford to. She activated a holographic replay of the battle. You started in a perfect formation. Perfect by your rules. But it made you predictable. We knew exactly how you would approach. Exactly what angles you would use. Exactly when you would fire. The hologram showed the Indomitable appearing to be helpless, drawing the Krathic in. You played dead, Thrak said. We used deception, Vasquez corrected. In real combat against the Devourers, we use every advantage we can get. There is no honor in death. There is only survival. Lieutenant Webb spoke up. Commander, in the first 30 seconds of the engagement, you made a fatal mistake. You broadcast your attack order on open channels. We heard you tell your ships to fire. That gave us 2 full seconds to react. But communication is necessary, one of the Krathic officers protested. How else do we coordinate? Encrypted channels, Webb replied. Prearranged signals. Autonomous decision-making by individual ship commanders. Never tell your enemy what you are about to do. The hologram continued. It showed how the Indomitable had deliberately fired between the Krathic ships, forcing them to scatter. You broke our formation, Thrak observed. We isolated you, Chen corrected. In human naval doctrine, the first goal is always to prevent the enemy from fighting as a cohesive unit. Separate and destroy. Never fight the whole enemy force at once if you can help it. But that seems dishonorable, a Krathic officer said. Vasquez's expression hardened. Commander, let me tell you something about honor. We lost a colony world called New Hope. 5 million humans lived there. When the Devourers attacked, our fleet was outnumbered. We could have fought honorably, followed all the rules of war, and died bravely. Instead, we ambushed them from behind an asteroid field. We used their own dead ships as shields. We lured them into a trap, where our ground-based artillery could tear them apart. We did not fight with honor. We fought with desperation and cunning, and we saved 4 million people. She paused, letting that sink in. Honor does not feed the hungry. Honor does not heal the wounded. Honor does not bring back the dead. In a war of extinction, the only thing that matters is winning. Everything else is luxury. The room was silent. The Krathic officers looked at each other, their certainty crumbling. When you reformed your formation, Webb continued, you did it by the book. Each ship moved to its proper position. Perfect execution. But perfect execution is predictable execution. We knew where each ship would be before you even moved. We were waiting. The hologram showed the Indomitable systematically destroying the Krathic cruisers one by one. You concentrated fire on each target until it was destroyed, Thrak said. We spread our fire across multiple targets to damage as many as possible. That is standard doctrine. Standard doctrine is wrong, Vasquez said flatly. A damaged ship can still fight. A destroyed ship cannot. We always prioritize elimination over damage. Kill one enemy completely, then move to the next. Never leave a threat operational if you can help it. Chen pulled up another tactical display. Here is where you made another critical error. When your ship 3 was disabled, you all held fire for fear of hitting it. That gave us nearly 4 seconds of free maneuvering time. We could not fire on our own vessel, a Krathic officer protested. Why not? Chen asked. It was already dead. In real combat, we would have used it as a weapon. Crashed it into your formation. Detonated its reactor, something. The dead exist to serve the living. That is the price of war. Thrak stood up suddenly. His massive form trembled slightly. This is madness. You are describing warfare without conscience, without mercy, without humanity. Vasquez stood as well, meeting his gaze steadily. No, Commander. We are describing warfare without illusion. You and your people have had the luxury of treating combat as a game with rules. We have not. Every tactic you saw today was learned through blood, through losing, through watching good people die because we were not ruthless enough, not clever enough, not willing enough to do whatever was necessary. She gestured to her crew. Lieutenant Webb lost his entire family in the fall of New Shanghai. Commander Chen watched his wife die in a Devourer raid. Every person on my ship has lost someone. We fight the way we do because we cannot afford to lose anyone else. And if that seems cruel or dishonorable to you, then I am sorry, but I will not apologize for keeping my people alive. Thrak sat down slowly. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet. We thought ourselves warriors. We practice from birth. We study strategy and tactics. We take pride in our military traditions. And you should, Vasquez said, sitting as well. You are warriors, skilled ones. But you are warriors who have not needed to actually fight in a very long time. You practice war. We live it. Can we learn? Thrak asked. Can you teach us to fight as you do? Vasquez exchanged glances with Chen. Some silent communication passed between them, as it often did with people who had fought together for years. Yes, she said finally. But you will not like it. You will have to abandon much of what you believe about honor and proper conduct. You will have to accept that sometimes good people must do terrible things. You will have to learn to live with the weight of decisions that kill your own people to save more. And once you learn these things, you cannot unlearn them. The Concordat will never be the same. High Counselor Marish spoke for the first time since the meeting began. Her telepathic voice carried a note of sadness. Perhaps that is necessary. Perhaps we have been children playing in a garden, not realizing there are wolves in the forest beyond. Krell felt the truth of her words. For 800 cycles, the Concordat had built a civilization on the assumption that the universe was fundamentally reasonable, that conflicts could be resolved through wisdom and patience, that violence was never truly necessary. The humans had shown them the flaw in that thinking. The universe did not care about their philosophy. Sometimes survival required the capacity for violence, the willingness to do what was necessary, no matter how distasteful. If the Devourers come here, Marish continued, we will need to be ready. Ambassador Krell, you spoke with Captain Vasquez extensively. Tell me honestly, are these tactics necessary, or are the humans simply more violent than required? Krell thought about the footage he had seen. The Devourers tearing through defenses, the human soldiers fighting against impossible odds. The choice between cruel tactics and total extinction. High Counselor, he said slowly, I believe the humans do what they must, nothing more, but also nothing less. They have learned to be efficient killers because inefficient killers do not survive. Marish nodded. Then we must learn as well. Commander Thrak, your Krathic forces will be the first to train under human instruction. Captain Vasquez, we accept your offer of alliance. We will send aid to your colony worlds, and in exchange you will teach us how to wage real war. Vasquez stood and gave a formal nod. We accept, High Counselor. But I must warn you, this training will be hard. Many of your people will not want to adapt. Old warriors will resist new ways. Let them resist, Thrak said, his voice hard now. I saw what happened today. I felt helpless like a child fighting an adult. I will not feel that way again. If these Devourers exist, if they are coming, then we must be ready. Even if it costs us our pride. The meeting ended. Agreements were made. Plans were set in motion. The Concordat had committed itself to learning human warfare for better or worse. As the representatives filed out, Krell stood by the window and looked at the Indomitable. The scarred warship hung in space, a monument to humanity's struggle for survival. He wondered what the Concordat would become, once it learned to fight as the humans did. Would they become protectors, using their new skills only when necessary? Or would they become something darker, shaped by violence as the humans had been? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had changed today. The age of peace through consensus was over. The age of peace through strength had begun. The warning came 3 weeks after the Concordat began their military training with the humans. It came as a scream across every deep space sensor array. Massive energy signatures, moving through the outer terminus at speeds that should have been impossible for organic vessels. The Devourers had arrived. Ambassador Krell stood in the Grand Council chamber and watched the tactical display with a feeling of ice spreading through his chest. 32 contacts, 32 massive bioships, each one larger than the biggest vessels in the Concordat fleet. They moved in a swarm pattern, organic and flowing like a school of predatory fish that had caught the scent of prey. They followed the Indomitable, Krell said quietly. They tracked the human ship here. It does not matter how they came, High Counselor Marish said. Her telepathic voice was controlled, but Krell could sense the fear beneath it. They are here. We must respond. Commander Thrak stepped forward. In the past 3 weeks, the Krathic leader had changed. He carried himself differently now, moved with more purpose. The humans had been teaching him well. I have 15 ships ready for immediate deployment. Another 20 can be mobilized within 6 hours. We should strike now before they can establish a foothold. Negative, Captain Vasquez said. She stood beside the tactical display, her face grim. Commander, with respect, you have had 3 weeks of training. That is not enough. These are Devourers. If you engage them using standard Concordat tactics, they will destroy you. Then what do you suggest? Marish asked. Vasquez studied the tactical display, her eyes moving across the data with the practiced ease of someone who had spent years reading battle information. The Indomitable engages them. We buy time for you to mobilize your full fleet. Then we coordinate a defense using human tactics. 1 ship against 32? Thrak protested. That is suicide. Vasquez smiled, but there was no humor in it. Commander, I have fought against worse odds than this. Trust me, Before anyone could respond, Commander Chen entered the chamber quickly. His expression told Krell that something had changed. "Captain," Chen said urgently, "we are receiving distress calls from the outer colonies. The Devourers are not heading for the core worlds. They are hitting the frontier settlements." "Show me," Vasquez commanded. The tactical display shifted. Red markers appeared across a dozen different colony worlds on the edge of concordate space. Small settlements, mining outposts, agricultural stations. None of them were heavily defended. "They are going for resources first," Vasquez said. "Standard Devourer tactics. Hit the weak targets, consume what they can, then move to the harder ones once they have built up their strength." "We must defend them," Marish said. "Every life matters." "We cannot defend them all," Vasquez replied bluntly. "We do not have enough ships. If we spread our forces thin, the Devourers will destroy us piece by piece. We need to concentrate our strength." "Are you suggesting we abandon those people?" Krell asked, horror in his voice. Vasquez turned to him and her eyes were hard. "I am suggesting we make the hard choice. We evacuate who we can. We delay the Devourers where possible, but we do not sacrifice our main fleet trying to hold positions we cannot defend. That is how you lose wars." The chamber erupted in protest. Representatives from a dozen species spoke at once, their voices rising in anger and fear. The Concordate had never abandoned its people. It was unthinkable. Marish raised her hand, calling for silence. "Captain Vasquez, I understand your logic, but we are not humans. We cannot simply abandon our people to save the majority. That goes against everything we believe." "Then you will all die believing it," Vasquez said. There was no anger in her voice, only a tired certainty. "High Counselor, I have seen this before. Dozens of times. You want to save everyone. That is admirable. But the Devourers are counting on that. They know you will split your forces to defend each colony. They will overwhelm you one group at a time." "What would you have us do?" Marish asked. "Fight smart. Fight ruthless. Accept that some will die so that more can live." Vasquez pointed to the tactical display. "We establish a defensive line here, along the inner colonies. We evacuate everyone behind that line. Anyone who cannot be evacuated, we arm them. We teach them to fight. We buy time. And the ones who cannot fight?" Krell asked quietly. Vasquez met his gaze. "Then they die, and we make sure their deaths mean something." The chamber fell silent. It was the Concordate's first real lesson in the mathematics of survival. Not everyone could be saved. Trying to save everyone meant losing everything. Finally, Thrax spoke. "The captain is right. This is war, real war. We either fight it properly or we lose." He turned to Marish. "High Counselor, I request permission to take my fleet to support the human ship. Let us delay the Devourers while the rest of the Concordate mobilizes." Marish looked around the chamber. She saw fear in every face, but also determination. The Concordate was being tested and they would not fail. "Permission granted," she said. "Commander Thrak, Captain Vasquez, defend our people. Buy us time. The full fleet will join you as soon as possible." Vasquez saluted. It was a human gesture, but it felt appropriate. "We will hold the line, High Counselor, no matter the cost." The Indomitable and 15 Krathic cruisers jumped to the first battle zone 3 hours later. They emerged near a colony world called Praxis Minor, a small mining settlement with 20,000 inhabitants. The Devourers had already begun their assault. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Vasquez watched the horror unfold. 3 Devourer bioships surrounded the planet, launching smaller craft toward the surface. Even from orbit, she could see the destruction. Settlements burning, people fleeing, the desperate fight of a colony that had no real military capability. "How many can we evacuate?" Chen asked. Lieutenant Webb checked his sensors. "Transport capacity for maybe 5,000. We would need 3 trips. That would take 6 hours minimum." "We do not have 6 hours," Vasquez said. "The moment we start evacuating, the Devourers will target the transports. We need to hurt them first. Make them focus on us instead of the colony." She opened a channel to Thrax's fleet. "Commander, this is Vasquez. Are your people ready?" Thrax's voice came through steady and determined. "We are ready, Captain. Tell us what to do." For 3 weeks, Vasquez had been drilling the Krathic in human combat doctrine. Hit and run, focus fire, exploitation of weakness. Thrak and his captains had been good students. Now it was time to see if the lessons had taken root. "We go for the bioship on the left," Vasquez ordered. "Full attack run. Concentrated fire on its propulsion systems. We cripple it, then move to the next target. Do not stop. Do not try to fight all of them at once. Kill one, move on. Clear? Clear, Thrak responded. Then let us show these monsters what the Concordat has learned. All ships attack. The human and Krathic vessels dove toward the Devourer fleet like vengeful angels. The bioships detected them immediately and began to turn, launching defensive organisms, living weapons that flew through space like guided missiles. Evasive maneuvers, Vasquez commanded calmly. Point defense, take out the small ones. Helm, get us to optimal firing range. The Indomitable twisted and rolled, its point defense cannons creating a web of fire that destroyed the incoming biological weapons. Behind it, the Krathic ships followed, mirroring its movements with increasing confidence. They hit the first Devourer bioship like a hammer strike. Concentrated fire from 16 vessels poured into its rear section, where the organic engines pulsed with bioluminescent energy. The creature shrieked, an actual sound transmitted through some unknown method, as its propulsion system ruptured. Target disabled, Webb reported. It is losing mobility. Moving to target 2, Vasquez said. Maintain formation. Watch for the counterattack. The Devourers responded exactly as she predicted. The 2 remaining bioships broke off their planetary assault and turned to face the attackers. They were angry now. Good. Angry enemies made mistakes. The second bioship died harder than the first. It had time to maneuver, to bring its weapons to bear. Living projectiles hammered against shields. One Krathic cruiser took heavy damage and fell back. Its hull breached in 3 places. But the combined fleet kept firing, kept pressing, and slowly, inevitably, the second bioship began to die. Critical damage to target 2, Webb announced. It is breaking apart. On the view screen, the Devourer bioship convulsed. Its organic hull split open, spilling atmosphere and biological fluid into space. It gave one final shriek and went dark. One left, Vasquez said. Thrak, status? We lost the warrior's pride, Thrak reported. His voice was tight with emotion. Captain Krell went down with his ship covering our approach, but we are still in the fight. Vasquez felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. Good people dying. That was the price of war. His sacrifice will be remembered. All ships' final assault. Let us finish this. The last Devourer bioship did not wait for them to attack. It launched everything it had. Hundreds of smaller organisms, some designed to attach to hulls and burn through them, others packed with explosive biological compounds. Full point defense, Chen ordered. Do not let them reach us! The space between the fleet and the bioship became a storm of fire. The humans and Krathic shot down the biological weapons as fast as they came, but some got through. The Indomitable shook as something slammed into its port side. Hull breach on deck 7, a damage control officer reported. Sealing compartments. Keep firing, Vasquez commanded. We are almost there. The fleet closed to point-blank range. Every weapon fired at once. The Devourer bioship tried to flee, but it was too slow, too damaged. It died screaming. The evacuation of Praxis Minor took 12 hours. With the immediate threat eliminated, transports moved in and began pulling people off the planet. Not everyone could be saved. The Devourers had killed thousands before the fleet arrived. But 15,000 made it out. Vasquez stood in the Indomitable's observation deck and watched the refugee ships depart. Behind her, the door opened and Ambassador Krell entered. We received word from 5 other colonies, Krell said quietly. 3 were completely destroyed before any help could arrive. The other 2 are under attack now. Vasquez nodded. She had expected this. How long until the main Concordat fleet is ready? 2 more days. Maybe 3. Krell moved to stand beside her at the window. Captain, we lost a ship today. Captain Krell was my cousin. We were named after the same ancestor. I am sorry, Vasquez said. He died bravely, died protecting others. In my culture, that is the highest honor. Krell paused. But it still hurts. Is it always like this? Does the pain ever become less? Vasquez thought about all the people she had lost over the years. Friends, comrades, lovers. Every name was carved into her memory. No, she said honestly. It never becomes less. You just learn to carry it, and you make sure their deaths accomplish something. That is all we can do. They stood in silence for a moment, 2 officers from different species bound together by the shared experience of loss. The council is debating whether to continue with your tactics, Krell said finally. Some say they are too brutal. That we are losing what makes us civilized. And what do you think? Vasquez asked. I think civilization is a luxury that requires strength to maintain. And I think you have been trying to teach us that strength. Krell looked at her. Captain, when this is over, if we survive, will we still be the same people we were? Vasquez smiled sadly. No, war changes everyone, but that is not always a bad thing. You are learning to be harder, yes, but also to be survivors. The question is whether you can hold on to your values even as you do what is necessary. Can you? Krell asked. Do humans still have values after 150 years of war? Vasquez pointed to the refugee ships. We just spent 12 hours evacuating people we barely know, from a world that is not ours. We did this knowing the devourers might return at any moment. We risked our lives for strangers. Does that answer your question? Krell bowed his head. Yes, it does. An alarm sounded. Both officers snapped to attention immediately. Captain, to the bridge, Chen's voice came over the intercom. We have a problem. A big problem. They ran to the bridge together. When they arrived, the tactical display showed something that made Vasquez's blood run cold. The remaining Devourer fleet, 29 bioships, was converging on a single point. They were not spreading out to hit multiple targets. They were concentrating. Where are they going? Krell asked. Webb worked his console rapidly. Running trajectory analysis. Oh no. They are heading for Sanctum. Sanctum, the capital world of the Concordat. Home to 3 billion people from 47 different species. The heart of everything the Concordat had built over 800 cycles. How long until they arrive? Vasquez asked. 18 hours, Webb said. And our main fleet will not be ready in time. Vasquez stared at the display. 29 Devourer bioships, against her damaged warship and 14 Krathic cruisers. The mathematics were simple and brutal. They could not win, but they could delay. They could buy time. They could give the Concordat a chance to evacuate their capital, to prepare defenses to survive. Send word to High Counselor Marish, Vasquez said. Her voice was steady, though she knew what this decision meant. Tell her we are going to engage the Devourer fleet at the Torvin Nebula. We will hold them there as long as possible. She needs to evacuate Sanctum and prepare every ship available for a last stand. Captain, Chen said quietly, the Torvin Nebula is a dead end. If we go in there, then we do not come out, Vasquez finished. I know, James, but it gives them time. It gives them a chance. Thrak's face appeared on the communication screen. The Krathic commander had been listening. Captain Vasquez, my ships will fight with you. We will buy the time our people need. You do not have to do this, Vasquez said. This is not your war. You are wrong, Thrak replied. This is exactly our war. You taught us that sometimes good people must make hard choices. This is our choice. We stand with you. Krell looked at Vasquez. Ambassador to the Council, he said formally. I request permission to remain aboard the Indomitable during the battle. You will likely die, Vasquez said bluntly. Then I will die doing something that matters, Krell replied. Is that not what you told me? Make their deaths accomplish something. Vasquez nodded slowly. Welcome aboard, Ambassador. Helm set course for the Torvin Nebula. All ships prepare for combat. This is going to be our last fight. Let us make it count. The fleet turned toward its fate. Behind them, Concordat space began the largest evacuation in its history. Ahead of them, the Devourers closed in for the kill. But they would not find easy prey. They would find humans who had learned how to fight through 150 years of war, and they would find Concordat forces who had finally learned what real warfare meant. The battle for the survival of civilized space was about to begin. The Torvin Nebula was beautiful in a way that made it perfect for dying. Clouds of stellar gas glowed with colors that no natural atmosphere could produce. Blues and purples and brilliant golds. Ancient stars had died here, their final explosions creating this cosmic garden. Now more death was coming to join them. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched her crew prepare for battle. They moved with the calm efficiency of people who had done this many times before. Every station was manned. Every weapon was loaded. Every shield generator was running at maximum capacity. They all knew this was probably the last battle. Nobody spoke about it. They did not need to. 15 ships against 29, Commander Chen said quietly, standing beside her. I have seen worse odds. Liar, Vasquez replied, but she smiled slightly. Remember New Shanghai? We had 16 ships there. And one. Barely. Chen's expression grew distant, remembering that battle. Remembering the cost. Elena, if this goes badly, it will go badly, she interrupted. The question is whether it goes badly enough to matter. Whether we buy enough time. She opened a fleet-wide channel. Every ship, human and Krathic, received her transmission. This is Captain Vasquez to all vessels. In a few minutes, 29 Devourer bioships will emerge from FTL at the edge of this nebula. They are heading for Sanctum, for the heart of the Concordat, for 3 billion people who cannot defend themselves. She paused, letting that sink in. We are 15 ships. We are outgunned. We are outmassed. By every logical measure, we should run. We should save ourselves and let someone else fight this battle. Another pause. She could feel every eye on every ship focused on her words. But we are not going to do that, because we know something the Devourers do not. We know that sometimes numbers do not matter. Sometimes determination matters more than mass. Sometimes 15 ships crewed by people who refuse to surrender can hold the line against anything. On the bridge around her, crew members straightened at their stations. She could see it in their eyes, the resolve hardening into certainty. We are going to hurt them. We are going to make them bleed. We are going to buy our people time to evacuate, time to prepare, time to live. And if we die doing it, then we die knowing we stood between the darkness and the light. There is no greater purpose than that. She looked at Chen, at Lieutenant Webb, at every face on her bridge, these people who had become her family through shared struggle. All ships, she said, weapons free. Show them what happens when they threaten our worlds. Show them what happens when they face humans and Concordat fighting together. Make them remember this day. Captain, Webb said, detecting FTL signatures. They are coming. Here we go, Chen murmured. Space tore open. One by one, the Devourer bioships emerged from faster-than-light travel. They were massive, each one a nightmare of organic technology. Living ships grown rather than built, covered in armor that looked like insect carapace. They moved with purpose, ignoring the nebula's beauty, seeing only the prey ahead. All ships, Vasquez commanded. Attack pattern Omega, execute. The human and Krathic fleet split into 3 groups. It was not what the Devourers expected. Most species tried to concentrate their strength when outnumbered. But Vasquez was not most commanders. The 3 groups dove at the Devourer formation from different angles, each one targeting different sections of the enemy fleet. The bioships tried to adjust, but coordination took time. Time was what Vasquez was buying. The first salvos lit up the nebula. Energy weapons and kinetic rounds tore through space, mixing with the natural glow of the stellar gases. The Indomitable led its group straight at the largest Devourer bioship, weapons firing continuously. Direct hits, Webb shouted. Their shields are holding, but we are getting through. Keep firing! Do not let up, Vasquez ordered. Around them, the battle became chaos. But it was controlled chaos. Human chaos. The Krathic ships followed the battle plan perfectly, supporting each other, covering weaknesses, exploiting openings. 3 weeks of training showed in every maneuver. A Devourer bioship exploded, torn apart by concentrated fire from Commander Thrax's group. Then another. The Concordat forces were fighting with a viciousness that surprised even the Devourers, but the cost was already mounting. A Krathic cruiser took a direct hit from a biological weapon that burned through its shields and hull. The ship broke apart, spilling atmosphere and crew into space. They are adapting, Chen reported, learning our patterns. Then we changed the patterns, Vasquez replied. All ships switched to attack formation Delta, random intervals. Keep them guessing. The battle raged for 20 minutes. Then 30. The human and Krathic ships danced through the nebula, using the gas clouds for cover, emerging to strike and then vanishing again. Classic guerrilla tactics. Thrak and his Krathic were learning fast, adapting in real time. But there were too many Devourers. For every bioship they destroyed, 2 more closed in. The defenders were being worn down, slowly but inevitably. We have lost 4 Krathic ships, Webb reported. 3 more are heavily damaged, and our shields are down to 40%. Vasquez checked her tactical display. They had destroyed 7 Devourer bioships. It was a good exchange rate, almost 2 for 1. But it was not enough. 22 bioships remained, and they were pushing through toward Sanctum. Time for a different tactic. Chen, What is the status of our reactor? Vasquez asked. Chen's eyes widened. He knew what she was thinking. Functional. Running hot but stable. Elena, you cannot be serious. I am very serious. If we cannot stop them with weapons, we stop them another way. She opened the fleet channel. All ships, this is Vasquez. Break off and retreat to minimum safe distance. I repeat, break off now. Captain, what are you doing? Thrak's voice came through, confused. Something necessary, Commander. Take care of the Concordat for us. And tell them Earth says hello. She closed the channel before Thrak could protest. The Krathic ships began to pull back, still firing, covering their retreat. Ambassador Krell, who had been silent throughout the battle, stood up from where he had been staying out of the way. Captain Vasquez, what are you planning? The only thing left to do, Vasquez replied calmly. We are going to ram the largest bioship at full speed and detonate our reactor. It will take out most of their fleet. The rest will be damaged enough for your reinforcements to handle. That is suicide, Krell said. Yes, Vasquez agreed. But it is effective suicide. That is what matters. Chen stepped forward. Elena, we can evacuate the crew. Use the autopilot. No time, Vasquez said. And we cannot risk the Devourers destroying the ship before we reach them. This needs someone at the helm. You know that. She looked around the bridge. But I am not asking all of you to die with me. Anyone who wants to evacuate has 60 seconds to reach the escape pods. No shame in choosing life. You have all earned the right to survive. Nobody moved. Lieutenant Webb spoke up, his young face set with determination. With respect, Captain, go to hell. I am not leaving. Around the bridge, the crew nodded. Murmurs of agreement. They had come this far together. They would finish together. Vasquez felt something break inside her chest. Pride, sorrow, love for these people who had become her family. Then we make this count. Chen, redirect all power to engines and shields. Strip every non-essential system. I want maximum speed. Already done, Chen replied. His hands moved across his console, making final adjustments. We will hit them like a missile. They will not even know what happened. The Indomitable turned and accelerated. The massive warship pointed itself at the largest Devourer bioship, the flagship, they assumed, and pushed its engines beyond safety limits. The hull began to vibrate. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. Devourers are detecting our course change, Webb reported. They are trying to intercept. Too late, Vasquez said. We are committed. Helm, maximum burn! The ship surged forward. Space blurred. The Devourer flagship grew larger on the viewscreen with terrifying speed. The other bioships tried to block the Indomitable's path, but the human ship smashed through them like they were paper. 30 seconds to impact, Chen said. His voice was steady. Elena, it has been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, James, Vasquez replied. She opened a final transmission, broadcasting to the Concordat. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the UNSC Indomitable. To the Concordat Council, we bought you time. Use it well. Defend your people. Remember that sometimes peace requires sacrifice. And to humanity, wherever our people are fighting, never stop. Never surrender. Make them remember what happens when they threaten Earth's children. She looked at her crew, these brave souls who had followed her into hell so many times. I am proud of every one of you. 10 seconds, Chen said. Ambassador Krell closed his eyes and reached out with his telepathic sense. He felt the minds around him, human minds, so strange and violent and beautiful. They were not afraid. They were at peace. Ready? 5 seconds. Vasquez gripped the arms of her command chair. For humanity. For the Concordat. For everyone who cannot fight for themselves. 2 seconds. The Indomitable hit the Devourer flagship at a significant fraction of the speed of light. Then, Captain Elena Vasquez detonated the reactor. The Autu explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The Indomitable's reactor, pushed far beyond its normal limits, unleashed enough energy to vaporize the Devourer flagship instantly. The shockwave expanded outward, tearing through the remaining bioships like a cosmic hand swatting insects. 14 Devourer bioships died in that explosion. Another 5 were so heavily damaged they could no longer fight. The remaining 3, battered and broken, fled into FTL, running for their lives. The threat to Sanctum was ended. In the aftermath, Commander Thrak's fleet moved through the debris field, searching for survivors. They found none from the Indomitable. The human warship had been completely destroyed, but they did recover the ship's log, protected in an armored data core designed to survive anything. They recovered the final transmission. Captain Vasquez's last words, and they wept. Krathic warriors trained from birth to be strong, shed tears for a human captain who had taught them what true strength meant. 2 weeks later, the Grand Council chamber held a memorial service. Representatives from all 47 species attended. The chamber was filled beyond capacity. People stood in the aisles. Others watched from outside via video feeds. At the center of the chamber stood a holographic display showing the Indomitable. Beside it, one by one, appeared the faces of every crew member who had died in the battle. 417 humans, crew members from 3 Krathic ships that had been destroyed. A total of 622 souls. Ambassador Krell stood to deliver the eulogy. His voice, usually calm and measured, trembled with emotion. "We are here to honor the fallen," he began, "to remember those who gave everything to protect our civilization. But we are also here to acknowledge a truth that is difficult to accept." He paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives. For 800 cycles, the Concordat believed that civilization meant the absence of violence. We thought ourselves enlightened because we had moved beyond war. But we were wrong. Civilization does not mean the absence of violence. It means the willingness to commit violence only in defense of what is right. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Captain Elena Vasquez and her crew came from a people who had known war for generations. They had been shaped by violence, hardened by it. We feared them. Some of us saw them as barely civilized. But they showed us something we had forgotten. They showed us that sometimes good people must do terrible things. That sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to stand between them and the darkness, no matter the cost. High Counselor Murish stepped forward. Commander James Chen, Captain Vasquez's second officer, recorded a message before the final battle. I believe we should hear his words. The holographic display changed. Commander Chen appeared, looking tired but resolute. His voice filled the chamber. "If you are hearing this, then the Indomitable is gone. And so am I. Good. That means we did what we set out to do. We bought you time." Chen paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "I want you to understand something about humanity, about Earth. We are not a warrior species. We did not choose violence. Violence was forced upon us. For millions of years, we survived by being clever, by adapting, by refusing to give up. And when something tried to destroy us, we learned how to fight back." Another pause. His eyes seemed to look directly through the recording, seeing everyone watching. "Captain Vasquez once told me that humans have only 2 settings, peaceful cooperation or absolute war. We tried peaceful cooperation with the Devourers. They chose war, so we gave them war. And we will keep giving them war until they are gone or we are." Chen smiled sadly. "But here is what I want the Concordat to know. We did not come to your space to conquer. We did not come to spread human dominance. We came looking for help. And when you needed us, we did what humans have always done. We stood between the darkness and those who could not stand alone. That is who we are. That is what Earth taught us. Protect the weak. Defend the helpless. Never back down from evil." The recording flickered. "The Concordat is different from humanity. You have built a civilization based on peace and understanding. That is beautiful. Do not lose that. But do not forget what we taught you. Peace requires the strength to defend it. Never forget that lesson. Never forget what happened here." The recording ended. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then someone began to clap, then another. Within seconds, the entire chamber was applauding, the sound echoing off the crystal walls. 3 months after the battle, a Concordat diplomatic vessel entered human space. It was the first official contact with the human colony worlds. They brought news of the battle, of the sacrifice, of the memorial. They also brought a proposal. High Counselor Murish herself led the delegation. She met with the human colonial government on New Terra, in a city that was still rebuilding from Devourer attacks. "The Concordat Council has voted unanimously," Murish said. "We wish to offer humanity full membership in the Concordat. But more than that, we wish to propose a new position. Wardens of the Concordat. Human forces would be responsible for training our military, maintaining our defenses, and standing ready for threats we cannot handle alone." The human colonial governor, an older woman named Sarah Martinez, considered this carefully. "You are asking us to be your soldiers." "No, Marish replied. "We are asking you to be our teachers, our guardians, our partners." Captain Vasquez showed us that we had become complacent, soft. We forgot that the universe is not always kind. "You can help us remember, help us stay strong, but we want to do this together, not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals." Governor Martinez looked at the holographic display showing the rebuilt Indomitable Memorial on Sanctum. It had become the most visited site in Concordat space. Millions came every day to pay their respects. "We accept," Martinez said, "but with conditions. Never again do humans fight alone, and never again does the Concordat forget how to defend itself. Deal?" "Deal," Marish agreed. They shook hands, a human gesture that was quickly spreading through the Concordat. The alliance was sealed. 1 year later, the changes were visible everywhere. Joint human Concordat fleets patrolled the borders. Former pacifist species now trained in combat tactics under human instruction. The Concordat had not abandoned its ideals of peace and cooperation. But those ideals were now backed by the strength to enforce them. On Sanctum, a massive statue had been erected in the central plaza. It showed Captain Elena Vasquez standing with one hand extended, as if offering help. Behind her, the Indomitable rose into the sky. At the base of the statue, a simple inscription: "She came from the stars to warn us. She stayed to save us. She gave everything to protect us. Remember her sacrifice. Honor it by staying strong." A young Varesh girl stood before the statue. She wore the uniform of the Concordat Defense Force, a new organization combining human and alien military philosophy. She was part of the first generation to grow up after first contact. The first generation that would never know the false comfort of believing the universe was safe. She placed her hand on the statue's base and whispered, "We remember. We are ready." Around her, the city bustled with life. Humans and dozens of alien species working together, living together, building together. The Concordat had changed. It was harder now, more pragmatic, but also stronger, more resilient. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Peace was not weakness. But peace required the courage to defend it, required people willing to stand in the darkness so others could live in the light. Some called the humans saviors, others called them necessary evil. A few still feared them, worried about what they represented, the capacity for violence in service of good. But everyone agreed on one thing. First contact with humanity was the day the Concordat grew up, the day they learned that ideals without strength were just wishes. The day they understood that civilization was not the absence of violence, but the wisdom to use violence only when absolutely necessary. And on the frontier, where human and Concordat forces fought side by side against the remaining devourers, a new saying emerged. When things looked darkest, when the enemy seemed overwhelming, soldiers would look at each other and say, "Remember the Indomitable," and they would fight on. Because that was what Elena Vasquez and her crew had taught them. That sometimes facing impossible odds with determination and courage was enough. That sacrifice for others was the highest calling. That standing together was stronger than any force that could be brought against them. The Devourers learned this lesson too late. They had expected the Concordat to crumble, expected soft civilized species to fold under pressure. Instead, they found humans who refused to quit. And they found a Concordat that had learned to fight from those humans. One by one, the Devourer breeding worlds fell. Their fleets were hunted down and destroyed. The war continued for 3 more years, but the outcome was never in doubt. The combined human Concordat forces were too determined, too skilled, too absolutely unwilling to accept defeat. When the last Devourer bioship was destroyed, there was no celebration, only quiet reflection. War had taken its toll on everyone, but they had survived. They had protected their homes. They had proven that civilization could be strong without being cruel. And in the memorial garden on Sanctum, where Captain Vasquez's statue stood watch over the city, a new generation of warriors came to remember. To learn, to understand what sacrifice meant, the galaxy was changed forever. The age of peace through consensus was over. The age of peace through strength had begun. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the spirit of the Indomitable sailed on. A reminder, a warning, a promise. We stand together. We defend each other. And we never ever give up. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget it.